Hey, lovers of the supernatural. Welcome back to the episode 3 of Binge and Build. This is a show where I binge TV and build characters in The Sims 4. Today, we're going to go all the way back to 1998 with the very first episode of the original Charmed. Yes, we are talking about a sisterhood, some witches, and we're also talking about 90s fashion a little bit. Love the whole series in general, but I wanted to revisit it. So while I work on creating the Halliwell sisters, I will talk about the pilot episode. So this episode does kick off really, really fast. Phoebe comes back from New York and, Prue does not know. Right now we are creating Prue, as you can see. And, we kind of kick off with Prue and Piper, and they're just living lives, trying to get their job. Prue had a failed relationship in this episode, and Phoebe comes back. There is some animosity with, not Paige, that's the wrong series. Prue and Phoebe, and you can feel it, and you can tell that they are just not... they're not as close. Phoebe does go up to the attic and kind of causes the whole witch stuff to happen. So, let's talk about Prue. Prue is the older sister. She is so responsible. She's the bossy kind of sister. We do get to meet her ex, Andy, which I love Andy, but that's not who we're talking about today. And we just kind of know that there's going to be something between them through the whole series. She does have the power to move things with her mind. Pretty cool. I do really love Prue. And then the next character we create is Piper. And I love Piper. She was one of the favorite. Kind of a fun story is when I was a kid, I used to print scripts of the Charmed episodes, and I would read them with my friends. So I thought that was fun. She's sweet. She loves to cook. She is dating someone in the pilot episode, and she can freeze time, which is pretty awesome. I like that power. And there's in this episode, when she's trying to get a job, she does freeze him, and she ends up getting the job because she was too slow, and she does get the job. She puts the rest of her ingredient on there. And, she is kind of the sister that kind of wears more of the cardigans. She does want to be a chef, but later on you find out she does something different, but we're not going to talk about that. And then, of course, we have Phoebe, the younger sister. Alyssa Milano does such a great job in playing that little sister, and especially the wild little sister, because of their background. And it's just really amazing kind of how they pull it off, and you can feel like they do feel like real sisters, and especially in the pilot episode. I do love that. But Phoebe is like the troublemaker. She's stirring the pot. I think she's kind of misunderstood. I would almost call her a little bit spoiled. She does find the book, like I said earlier, and she does activate the spell. And she has the power of premonition. So Phoebe does kind of struggle throughout the series with especially the season 1, I would say, with her not having such an active power, where, Prue and kind of Prue and Piper have more of the active power. And then later on she does get it. So let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into the pilot episode. So, because we got to know the sisters a little bit more. The pilot episode, we find out that they do live in their grandmother's house, and we also find out that Prue has just been recently dating someone, and supposedly Phoebe kind of made a pass at him, and you don't know if it's true or not. They kind of sidestep that thing. I don't necessarily believe it's true or not, but that is their major problems. And Phoebe is kind of lost, because of past trauma. You also find out that in this series that Piper is dating someone named Jeremy, and then later on you do find out that he is a warlock and they have to defeat him at the end of the episode, which was pretty cool when they kind of put like thorns in him. I thought that was a pretty cool like special effects, especially for a pilot episode or the first episode. Now, this is not the first pilot in the original series. There is an unaired one because they had to recast. But the one thing I have to say, which is really goofy, which had got a lot better throughout the series mostly, is like the weird face. Like they kind of smush his face with CGI, and I'm like, that is just so silly. Some of the dialogue is a little bit silly in this episode because, you know, I really don't think you don't usually find your ground in the first episode. But I do think the show came out at a perfect time in 1998, just because, you know, at the time during that time, there wasn't much supernatural shows or popular ones, of course, especially on like the CW. It wasn't the CW. I think it was the WB at the time or whatever it was at the time. And then, you know, you had some of the supernatural shows come out, and then Charmed. But Charmed also is about 3 independent women living in by themselves, trying to navigate, especially in their early 20s, mid 20s, really navigating who they were as people, getting jobs, relationship, dating, trying to find, you know, someone to spend their life with. And I really think Charmed did it well. And I've always loved Aaron Spelling shows because I think it was an Aaron Spelling show. I could be wrong. Yes, it was an Aaron Spelling show. I want to make that correct. He was really good at crafting realistic people. And I do think this is really crafted well, where the sisters feel real. I just love this show. It's just so amazing, especially the special effects later on. Of course, not every series, because it did last for a while. There's some seasons that are better than others. And I'm going to talk about some of my standouts about this episode. I think, you know, when Prue moves the cream with her mind is pretty cool. I also think them chanting Power of 3, that's when you kind of felt their bond get stronger, even though they still struggled within the first season because of past issues kind of they had. And I felt like Piper was always stuck in the middle. She wanted, you know, them to get along. She definitely played the middle sister role very well. So, after watching the pilot episode in 2025, it does really hold up. It holds up a lot better than I would say some of the newer shows. It is something that you can't even tell is really from the 90s. Maybe a little bit of the dialogue you can, maybe a little bit of fashion, but some of that is coming back now. You get an important setup without it feeling too slow. And like I said, the chemistry between the sisters are chef's kiss. And it is a little campy, but it's campy for the 90s. So you have to understand the camp for the 90s it's just how it was. And it was in the best way. It makes me feel so happy. And how kind of dark it is, and kind of how this Jeremy was like going after her and trying to win her over and woo her. And that was kind of like, you know, that was kind of dark. And, you know, he was killing witches when you first opened that. He kind of was like, you know, and you got to see that. And, you know, I really liked the stakes. You really felt like, oh my gosh, she's coming after you. The tension building was amazing in the pilot episode. I liked it a lot. Was it scary? No, not necessarily, but the tension. So that is episode 1 of Charm. It is a magical show. I love it in all the right ways. I've got the sisters ready to take over the Sims world. If you're loving this nostalgia or you want to see me recreate more from Charmed or any other show, drop it in the comments, like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss what the next episode is. And like always, I will see you next time. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 3 of Binge and Build. Bye-bye.